This famous actress has everything: fame, money, millions of fans. Until one day, she starts seeing something no one else could see. And the truth behind what she's seeing is only the beginning of a much darker story. She is standing on a red carpet, camera flashes exploding around her, thousands of fans screaming her name. The world is watching her, celebrating her. And for a moment, it almost feels like everything she ever wanted has finally arrived. And then she sees it, a figure, standing right behind her, staring. And no one else can see it. This is the story of a woman who became famous for surviving something that broke her mind. And the longer the world celebrated her miracle, the more she disappeared inside it. Before any of this, before the red carpets and the magazine covers and the 10 million followers, Mu-hee was nobody. The kind of person the industry looks right through. She had been trying for years, and the roles never came. A few months before all of this changes, she is in Japan, alone, using a translation app on her phone to navigate a conversation she is absolutely not equipped for. She has tracked down her ex-boyfriend to a ramen shop in Tokyo because he left her 3 months ago, and she just found out the woman he left her for is 7 months pregnant. She does the math. He was lying to her for months. She wants answers. She wants a fight. She wants something to feel like it makes sense. What she gets instead is a stranger named Ju-ho-jin, a professional translator sitting at the next table who gets roped into the worst possible afternoon of romantic wreckage. He speaks Italian, Japanese, Korean. He helps an allergic child get to an ambulance, comes back to find Mu-hee has watched his bags, and she immediately pulls him into her crisis. He says no. She convinces him anyway. What follows is a confrontation that spirals badly. The woman her ex left her for is pregnant, yes, but she also says something to Mu-hee that cuts far deeper than anything about the ex. That Mu-hee kept him around by seeming abandoned and in need of saving. That she used her own pain as a way to hold on to people. It's a cruel thing to say, but it is also not entirely wrong. Ho-jin, who has now witnessed all of this, hugs her so she can cry without being seen. One disaster leads to another, and somehow these two strangers end up spending a full day together in Japan. They part ways that evening but accidentally swap phones. She comes running back. He gets a dinner reservation gifted to him by the Italian family he helped, and he invites her. She says yes. They plan to spend the day together and make it to that dinner. Sightseeing, an island, real conversation. The kind of afternoon that has no business meaning as much as it does. But then Ho-jin gets a call. Ji-seon, his ex-girlfriend, is in Japan. Ho-jin runs all the way to the observatory. He gets there and stops. He never makes it through the door. He never sees her. He just stands there outside and turns back around. That dinner never happens either. It's just a day, unfinished. The kind that stays with you anyway. Weeks later, back in Seoul, Mu-hee bags a role. A low-budget horror film called The Quiet Woman. She plays Do-rami, a zombie, a creature, a woman who is already dead. It's the kind of casting that might feel insulting to someone with more options. For Mu-hee, it's the first thing anyone has offered her in years. She says yes without hesitation. During the shoot, a stunt goes wrong. The cables holding her snap. She falls. And the world she lands in when she wakes up is nothing like the one she left. But what Mu-hee doesn't realize yet is that the fall didn't just break her body. It cracked something open inside her mind. And whatever came through that crack is only going to get stronger. She was in a coma for months. While she was unconscious, the quiet woman released, and something happened that no one predicted. The world became obsessed with her, with Do-rami, with the actress who filmed her death scene, fell in real life and survived. The story wrote itself. The miracle, the resurrection, the woman who came back. Her Instagram went from invisible to 10 million followers while she was asleep. Mu-hee woke up famous for a tragedy she doesn't even fully remember. And here's where the story gets cruel. She's on a German talk show, smiling, saying all the right things. The audience loves her. The host is warm. Everything looks exactly like the success she spent years chasing. She steps backstage afterward into her dressing room and sits down in front of the mirror. And her reflection isn't her, it's Do-rami, the zombie. staring back with cold, dead eyes. Mu-hee blinks, looks again. Her own face. Of course it's her own face. She waves it off. But she knows something shifted in that moment, something no one else in that building can see. Then the stranger from Japan walks back into her life. Mu-hee is doing a Vogue Singapore interview. Her team has hired an interpreter. She walks in and it's Ho-jin. He took the job deliberately. He wanted to ask her something. They don't get to talk properly until after. And when he finally has the moment, what he asks is simple. Take down the photo she posted of him. He was on that island on Ji-seon's birthday, and he doesn't want Ji-seon to know. They have dinner. He makes clear he wants to keep things brief. But during the interview, someone asked about the man in her photo from Japan. Just someone who helped me with directions, she said. A kind stranger. Ho-jin heard every word of it and stayed through her entire schedule afterward anyway. She finds out from her manager Yong-woo that Ho-jin had come to see her in the hospital while she was in a coma. Before the film blew up. Before the 10 million followers. When she was still nobody. That lands differently than anything else she has learned about him. She goes to his house that night to apologize for prying into his personal life. He lets her in, tells her how he met Ji-seon, how she bought them matching charms, how the next time he saw her, she was already with Jin-suk, how he has been going back to that island on her birthday every year since, how he still has feelings for her. He says they shouldn't meet again, but that he'll be cheering for her from a distance. Mu-hee goes home carrying that information and not quite knowing what to do with it. Now she's famous enough to be at a film festival in Tokyo. She's walking the red carpet. She looks incredible. The dress, the cameras, the crowd. Everything about this moment is what she spent years dreaming of. And then, Durrami appears. A hallucination, right there at the edge of her vision on the carpet. And she pushes. Mu-hee's vision goes dark. She's falling, spiraling down a hole with no bottom. Then she snaps back to find a Japanese actor named Hiro has caught her, his arms around her, and the cameras are going absolutely insane. She has no idea what just happened. She's disoriented, trying to reconstruct the last 3 seconds. The reporters are already calling it a moment, a connection, a beginning. That night, she ends up crouched outside a hotel room door, crying. The room belongs to Ho-jin. She looks up at him and says something that sounds like a joke but isn't. Her festival is over. She means the luck, the miracle, the feeling that things were finally going right. She means she's scared it's already ending. Is the world in love with her talent? Or are they in love with the fact that she almost died? What do you think? Because those are two completely different things. And Mu-hee has to live inside that question every single day. She cannot separate the success from the accident. She cannot know which parts of her life she earned and which parts she was handed by tragedy. And that kind of uncertainty, when you live with it long enough, starts to hollow you out. In Japan, Ho-jin takes her to a doctor he knows. She explains what she's been seeing. The figure. The voice. She mentions, almost as an afterthought, that she was in an accident as a child that took her parents from her. She can't remember it. She has never been able to remember it. What she doesn't mention, because she doesn't yet understand it, is how precise the hallucinations are. How Durrami never just appears randomly. She appears at peaks of vulnerability, at the exact moments when Mu-hee's defenses are lowest, when she is most exposed, most desperate. The doctor doesn't have the tools to reach that. He gives her medication, tells her to get proper tests done in Seoul. The tests come back clear. Mu-hee isn't sick. And somehow, that is the worst news of all. Because if the tests say nothing is wrong, then the thing inside her head has no name, no treatment, no explanation. She is left alone with something real to her that is invisible to everyone else. Mu-hee steps into an elevator. Durrami is already inside. The doors close, and Durrami begins. Slow, deliberate, cutting, telling Mu-hee exactly what she believes about herself. That she is unwanted, that she ruins everything she touches, that the love she keeps reaching for will never stay. The things she says are not random. They are specific, targeted, personal. They hit the exact places Mu-hee has never let anyone else see. By the time the elevator hits the ground floor, Mu-hee is crouched in the corner, screaming. The doors open. The entire TV crew is standing there. Mu-hee straightens up, laughs, pretends she was practicing a scene, walks out like nothing happened. The smile she puts on in that moment is one of the most devastating things in this entire story because it is so practiced, so automatic. She has been doing this her whole life, containing herself, performing okay. Not because she wants to deceive anyone, but because she genuinely doesn't know another way. Performing okay is the only version of herself she has ever been allowed to show the world. And the terrifying thing is that she is very, very good at it. Good enough that no one ever thinks to look closer. But what's coming next is going to rewrite everything we thought we knew about where Do-rami actually came from. By the time the reality show Romantic Trip begins filming in Canada, Do-rami has settled in like a permanent resident. She's in the van. She's in the hotel room. She's in the mirror. The show pairs Mu-hee with Hiro, the Japanese actor who caught her on the red carpet in Tokyo. What no one tells Mu-hee at first is that Hiro didn't want to be cast with her. His image is built on romance. Being paired with a zombie actress doesn't exactly help that. Ho-jin knows this and keeps it from Mu-hee while he tries to smooth things over. But Mu-hee has enough to deal with already. At one point in Canada, Do-rami tells her to throw a rock at Hiro during a street encounter. Mu-hee stops herself, barely, but the fact that she even has to stop herself, that the thought arrives fully formed and feels almost reasonable in the moment, that's the part that terrifies her. She is losing the gap between thinking about something and doing it. The distance between her impulses and her actions is getting smaller, and she has no idea how to stop that from happening. Ho-jin is the one person who seems to understand what's actually happening. He cannot see Do-rami, but he has watched Mu-hee long enough to understand the shape of her fear. He tells her that the things Do-rami says are her own thoughts, that she is giving voice to what Mu-hee already believes about herself. That Do-rami is not an outside force. She is Mu-hee's own interior turned loud and visible. Mu-hee goes quiet. Because he's right. And that is so much worse than a ghost. In Canada, Do-rami does something new. She stops just taunting. She starts controlling. She knows exactly where to dig. And she forces Mu-hee's mouth open, pushing words out that she has been working very hard not to say. Mu-hee sits in the back of a car, feeling it happen, and she cannot stop it. It's like watching someone else drive your body. And the show around her has no idea any of it is happening. Then there's the kiss. They're alone by a lake, pretending it's the waterfall Ho-jin had been trying to find. Mu-hee leans in and kisses him. And the second it happens, she pulls back, horrified, at herself. Do-rami made her do it, she says. Ho-jin looks at her, doesn't say anything for a long moment, because they both know that's not quite true, and they both know exactly why she said it anyway. It is easier to blame a hallucination than to admit that you reached for something and then panicked. It is easier to say you didn't choose it than to acknowledge how much you wanted it and how terrified that wanting makes you. That night at a bar, Mu-hee catches Ho-jin looking at Ji-seon across the room. The look is unreadable, but Do-rami reads it for her. A vision surfaces, a little girl running toward a balcony, falling, and then the thought, quiet and absolute, the one she has carried her whole life like a verdict. She can't be loved. That's Do-rami's real power. She doesn't invent the fear. She confirms it. Every glance, every hesitation, every moment of uncertainty becomes proof of a conclusion that was already written. You can't fight that, because the conclusion isn't coming from outside. It's coming from inside. During a shoot back in Seoul, something breaks. Flashes of memory start coming through. Her father's birthday, him smiling and then collapsing. The images arrive fast and unordered, like film being fed backwards through a fire. Do-rami appears. Mu-hee closes her eyes. When she opens them, she is not Mu-hee anymore. The crew is right there, cameras rolling, and the person standing on that set is not the woman who walked in. Her posture is different. Her eyes are different. Something behind them has changed. A stillness that Mu-hee doesn't carry. A kind of cold composure that belongs to someone else entirely. She introduces herself to Ho-jin later that evening with a straight face and a terrifying calm. I'm Do-rami. Do-rami does not hide. Mu-hee's aunt and uncle are at a child's baptism, and Do-rami turns up there too, in a bright red coat, because she is the baby's godmother. She waits for the ceremony to finish, then turns to them and calmly tells them she knows what happened to Mu-hee's parents and that they should not interfere in her life again. She speaks of Mu-hee in the third person, as if they are two entirely separate people, because in this moment, to her, they are. She goes to Ho-jin's house, tells him not to accept Mu-hee's apology, that Mu-hee only causes damage to the people around her. Ho-jin, exhausted and confused, says things he shouldn't, that he would never be with someone as inconsiderate as Mu-hee, that this is over. Do-rami nods, then drops a pill into his glass of water and watches him pass out. Before she leaves, she makes one thing clear. He is not to mention any of this to Mu-hee. She is not protecting Mu-hee from pain. She is controlling what Mu-hee gets to know, what she gets to feel, what she gets to reach for. Do-rami does not want Mu-hee to be happy. She wants Mu-hee to be safe. In her mind, those are opposite things. The tragedy is that the protection has become the prison. Ho-jin is the one who puts it together. He watches her long enough, closely enough, to see that when Mu-hee goes quiet and something else looks out through her eyes, it is not performance. It is not manipulation. The switch has a texture to it, a shift in posture, a different cadence, a stillness that Mu-hee never quite has. And once he sees it, he can't unsee it. He realizes that the woman who has been keeping him company in the Italian nights, eating ice cream and drawing clovers on napkins, is not entirely Mu-hee. It has been Do-rami. Living on her behalf. He finds Do-rami at a small Italian shop, sits across from her, asks her carefully why she is still here, whether she will leave once Mu-hee is happy. Do-rami doesn't answer directly, but she doesn't leave either. And for the first time, someone is sitting across from the darkest part of Mu-hee and choosing to stay at the table. It comes out in pieces over the nights in Italy while Mu-hee sleeps and Do-rami walks. Mu-hee remembers the accident. She has always remembered. She just pretends she doesn't. Because the truth is this, her mother poisoned her father, put it in a birthday cake, and then sat across from her daughter and told the little girl to eat. She didn't eat. Her mother leaned close and said the words that have lived inside Mu-hee ever since. No one will ever love you. You will never be happy. Imagine the one person who was supposed to love a child saying that to her. If you were Mu-hee, how would you handle that? Those words built her. Every instinct she has. Run before you're left. Reject before you're rejected. Disappear before anyone can see you clearly enough to leave. All of it grows from that single moment. The way she chases people down in ramen shops and then panics when they stay. The way she reaches for something good and immediately explains it away. Do-rami is her mother's voice, made visible. A warning system that became a prison. Ho-jin holds her. And Do-rami, who does not accept comfort easily, lets him. While Mu-hee sleeps, Do-rami lives her life for her. Goes to restaurants, draws four-leaf clovers on napkins. Sits with Ho-jin in the dark and says the things Mu-hee cannot bring herself to say. If your mind split itself in two just to keep you alive, would you even want to be put back together? At a photography exhibition in Italy, Mu-hee comes across a photograph of the Northern Lights, Canada. The night in the field. Ho-jin finding the seventh clover. Her eyes fill. And then, she's Do-rami. The switch is getting faster, the line between them thinner. The two of them are converging, and it is becoming impossible to say where one ends and the other begins. That night, Do-rami tells Ho-jin to walk away from Mu-hee entirely. That as long as he's there, Mu-hee will keep reaching for a happy ending she doesn't believe she deserves. And that hope, she says, is crueler than no hope at all, because hope means wanting. And wanting, for Mu-hee, is the most dangerous state there is. Later, at a wedding at the winery, Ho-jin watches Mu-hee from across the room. She's laughing, dancing a little. From the outside, she looks like someone who is completely fine. He sees her, really sees her, and he still walks out. He loves her enough to wonder if leaving is the kindest thing he can do. His mother finds him outside with a bottle of wine. He tells her Mu-hee can't find a happy ending with him. She listens and says enough to get him back through the door. He finds Mu-hee. She says she wants to say goodbye. He holds her arm before she can turn away and says the things she has needed to hear her whole life, plainly, like a fact he is reading aloud. The belief that no one will ever love you is a delusion. He hopes she finds happiness. It doesn't fix her. Nothing one person says ever does. But it lands in a place that has been waiting for it for a very long time. A producer sends Mu-hee a video. Ho-jin, alone in the van after the final shoot, his head in his hands, crying. She watches it, and something unlocks. Because watching someone cry alone when they think no one is watching is harder to rationalize away. That is something real, unperformed, private, and it gets through. She goes to the restaurant where Do-ra-mi used to sit with him every night, draws a 7th four-leaf clover on a napkin, writes a wish on it. May auroras light up the world. Ho-jin finds it, and runs. She's waiting. She tells him she remembers everything. She admits she still likes him. He doesn't say it back in words. He kisses her instead. Around the same time, something quietly closes. Ho-jin is on a train to Busan for work, and Ji-seon is on the same train. She asks him something she has never directly asked before. She asks about the island, asks if he went there on her birthday, asks the question she has always known the answer to but never said out loud. And then, after years of that charm sitting in his drawer, after going to that island every birthday, after watching her marry someone else and then not, she finally says it directly. Did you like me? He says yes. They clear the air. No drama in it, no reopened door. Just two people finally saying the thing that was always there and then letting it be done. Ji-seon ends up with Yong-woo. They get engaged, they go to the UK together, and Ho-jin walks off that train having said it out loud for the first time, and he does not go back to her. He doesn't even consider it. Because Mu-hee already changed something in him that Ji-seon never reached. A scandal breaks. Old photos surface connecting Mu-hee to her ex, and the internet does what it does. Fills in the gaps with the worst possible version of the story. People assume the timing means she was involved with a married man, or her name trends for the wrong reasons. She handles it the only way she knows how, by posting a carefully managed photo with Yoo-jin and his wife, framing them as friends, swallowing the truth to protect the surface. Her past gets dragged into tabloids. Her aunt and uncle start circling again. And then, in a quiet moment that cuts through all the noise, her aunt says something that should be nothing. She says Mu-hee looks just like her mother. Mu-hee looks in the mirror, and she sees it. For the first time, completely. The face she has been running from. The face that said those words at the birthday table. The face that has been following her through elevators and red carpets and Italian restaurants for years. Do-ra-mi was never just a horror movie character. The hallucination, the figure, the voice, the constant presence. It was never just a symptom of trauma. It was the trauma itself, given a face and a name and a zombie's costume and let loose into her waking life. Her mind didn't create a random monster. It created the most specific, most targeted, most personalized monster it could. The one that already had access to every wound. The one that already knew every word that would cut the deepest. Because it was always her mother's voice. She just didn't recognize it until now. Mu-hee's knees give out. She's unconscious before she hits the floor. She wakes up 3 days later. Ho-jin is there. And he tells her something that rearranges everything she thought she knew. Her parents are alive. The poisoning didn't kill her father. The paramedics saved them both. The uncle living abroad is actually her father. The whole foundation of loss and grief she built herself on, the orphan identity, the alone-in-the-world story she has carried since childhood, was constructed by people who told themselves they were protecting her. She has been haunted by the ghost of a woman who is still alive somewhere. She has been running from a story that wasn't even true. Everything she became, the guardedness, the flinching from love, the belief she was unlovable was built on top of a lie. She wasn't an orphan. She was a child who was lied to by the adults who were supposed to protect her, and she lived inside that fiction for 20 years. No one will ever love you. You will never be happy, said to a child, at a birthday table. And that child spent the next 20 years making it true by leaving first. Mu-hee did not become famous because the world loved her. She became famous because the world loved the idea of her surviving. The miracle. The woman who came back smiling. But the real miracle was never the coma. It was that a person who was told love was not for her still kept reaching for it anyway. Still came running back when the phones got swapped. Still showed up at the hotel door. Still drew the seventh clover. The real Mu-hee, the one who shakes in elevators, who cannot look in mirrors, who draws four-leaf clovers on napkins at 2 in the morning, hoping this time the luck will stick. That woman the world has never fully seen. But Ho-jin has. He didn't fall in love with the global superstar. He fell in love with the nobody. The woman who existed before the coma, before the miracle, before any of it. The one nobody else was paying attention to. That is either the most beautiful thing in this story or the saddest. Maybe both. She decides to go find her mother. Because you cannot heal from a wound if you cannot find where it started. Her mother is still out there, carrying those words like she never had to pay for them. The words that built KDrama. The words Mu-hee has been trying to outrun her entire life. She has to look the source of all of it in the face, not to forgive it, but because the only way to stop being haunted by someone is to stop pretending they don't exist. At the airport, she and Ho-jin say goodbye. She breaks up with him there, with a logic that is so entirely Mu-hee. She says she's ending it now so that when she comes back, she can threaten him into dating her again and they can be together for a long time. He lets her go. He understands the language she's speaking. He always has. Months pass. Yong-woo and Ji-seon leave for the UK. Ho-jin's mother comes back, gathers all the books her father left behind, and donates every single one. Hiro, back in Japan, auditions for a Hollywood film and tells the director that he has learned you have to fight for what you want, or you live with the regret forever. He's talking about a role. He's also talking about Mu-hee. He knows it. He is going to be okay. And finally, on a cold Christmas night, Ho-jin gets a text. She's back. She invites him to the dark sky reserve they talked about months ago, when the world was still complicated and they were still figuring out if they were brave enough to try. He goes. She's waiting there with a bouquet of clovers. She uses a translation app to tell him how much she missed him. This woman who fell in love with a translator using a phone app to say the most important thing. Ho-jin, who has a word for everything in 6 languages, goes completely quiet. They kiss under an open observatory, the Milky Way above them, impossibly wide, impossibly bright. And for the first time in a very long time, Mu-hee looks up instead of over her shoulder. She is still healing. She will be for a while. The voice that was built over 20 years doesn't disappear because one person was kind. But something has changed. Mu-hee has stopped mistaking it for the truth. She knows whose voice it is. She knows it was never a verdict. It was just a wound that learned to speak. And the woman standing under those stars is no longer performing okay. For the first time, she is actually trying to be. This story was never really about fame. It was about what happens when the world decides who you are before you've had the chance to figure it out yourself. When your survival becomes your identity. When the version of you that was built to endure starts to swallow the version that actually wants to live. KDrama was real. She was necessary. She kept Mu-hee breathing through years that might have broken anyone. But she was also a cage. And the only way out was to stop running from the memory long enough to look at it. To let someone else see it too. To stop performing okay and start actually being it. Sometimes the ghosts we carry aren't strangers. Sometimes they're the people who were supposed to love us and didn't know how. And sometimes the only way to silence them is to stop mistaking their words for the truth. This was Can This Love Be Translated? Subscribe for more recaps and tell me in the comments which one I should break down next.